Hello everybody and welcome to an episode of Kerbal Space Program. I am playing a modded version with life support mods, but pretty much everything else is stock. And right now what you're watching is the deployment of the Bumblebee lander, which is destined to go to Minmus. I've done all the boring missions already, like launching the first vessel, going to the moon for the first time. Like, I don't think that's very interesting to watch. So I'm kind of starting this from a more interesting standpoint. As you can see, we're trying to dock with the ship, which I've named Flower, because I am uninventive. The purpose of Flower is to kind of test long-term space travel, because like I said, I've got life support mods, so you have to think about the food that you're bringing, the water, the fact that your Kerbals might go insane if they don't have enough to do. And stuff like radiation as well. So I'm just sending up a vessel that can kind of test the life support systems, if there are any kinks that I need to work out. I don't want to be halfway to Juna and realise that I haven't accounted for radiation properly and have all my Kerbals die in deep space. That wouldn't be very fun. So as you can see, I am struggling to get an encounter here. You might also notice I've got the trajectories mod, absolute godsend. If I want to land near the space center, that will tell me how to do it. Most of the other mods that I'm playing with are purely visual. This that you're currently looking at now is the Astronomer's Visual Pack, which is beautiful, but I have since transitioned to Blackrock's Volumetric Clouds, and that is just, wow, chef's kiss. That is the hands down the best visual mod for Kerbal Space Program to date. Some of the other like non-visual mods that I've got are just to do with contract packs, and maybe like little quality of life indicators like the trajectories mod or dock and cam indicator. But as you can see here, we're just rendezvousing with the Flower ship. It's already crewed, they're already on there. We're just sending this lander up so that it's, well, fully ready to go to Minmus. And there we are, fully docked in orbit. There's something so beautiful about watching two spacecraft dock in orbit. I don't know what it is, it's just very serene and peaceful. Just here we're transitioning the extra fuel from the launch vehicle to the main vessel, just so that we've got a bit of extra range. And not that we really need it, we've got plenty of range on this thing. You might notice that it's all one piece, the main vehicle. I just launched it all in one go because I couldn't be bothered to launch 3 or 4 different vehicles for something that wasn't really going that far. Like I said, I'm just really here to test the capabilities of this, really, in supporting crew, and just taking a few beauty shots there, because really that is the reason we all play this game. It is just beautiful, watching spacecraft drift alone in the darkness of space. As I was recording some of these beauty shots, I was getting these warning messages from the life support mod that we were running out of electric charge on the nighttime side, which is a bit of a problem because that's running all the life support systems, so without electricity our Kerbals don't live. Because it's still quite early on in the tech tree, I haven't got huge batteries, and I clearly just haven't put enough batteries on this thing, so when we're on the nighttime side we do run out of charge pretty damn quick. That's the sort of thing that this mission was designed to test for, to see, well, you know, how important is electric charge? Turns out quite important. I also have actually installed the free IVA mod, as I'm just having a look around there, and also the raster prop monitor, which I love that. You can literally run a whole mission from inside the cockpit. But yeah, so for the electric charge, it's not too big of an issue, because we're only going to Minmus, so I kind of got around the issue by putting the vessel in a high orbit around Minmus, and that way we're never really on the dark side for too long, and we just admit, as long as we keep the solar panels pointed at the sun, it should be fine. But yes, here, as you can see, I'm planning my maneuver to Minmus. Usually I can sort of eyeball it, but I wanted to be precise for this one, just for due diligence, really. But yeah, there's the moon high over the horizon. As we make our injection burn to Minmus, we will have to do a inclination correction on the way, because I haven't launched at the best time. And there's me messing around with the camera mod. I find the camera mod not very useful sometimes, especially the stationary camera. When you're in orbit, it just sometimes goes past too quickly to make it a worthwhile shot. And I just need to get used to it, really. In some of the later missions, when I finally have Blackrak's volumetric clouds installed, then the camera mod actually starts being quite cool, because I get some nice shots of planes flying through rain clouds. But yeah, here you can see me planning my inclination change. Just, it's good to kind of plan these things just so you don't overburn, but usually, as long as you're at the ascending node or the descending node, you know which way to point. But there we are, getting some cinematic shots of Kerbal and its system, a comparative pale blue dot against the tranquility of space, the silence broken only by my rambling. And then we're just making some final course corrections just so we can get into a nice equatorial orbit around Minmus. That is simply because landing with the lander and then taking off again just is made a lot easier in an equatorial orbit. You know, these days I really take for granted how wonderful the maneuver system is, because I've been playing this game since the maneuver system had first been added in, and oh my god, was it an absolute pain to use. It was infuriating. If you had a change of sphere of influence, it would just disappear, it would go wrong. Sometimes the marker wouldn't even show up or would be in the wrong place. Oh, it was just annoying. And now it just seems to work, like very little problems these days. And again, we're getting more warnings about running out of electricity. So turns out if I'm running too many systems on the craft as well, we also run out of electric charge. So we have to, you know, not use the TV. Yes, there is a TV in the habitation module there. Not actually in the IVA, which is a little disappointing, but it's one of those aspects that help alleviate the mental toll on the crew. But here we are, we've arrived at Minmus, and we're just doing our injection burn now so that we can get into orbit, and look at that, there we are. So first order of business is obviously run all of the experiments that I haven't yet done. That lab has a bunch of experiments on it, but every time I try and run them it says there's unmet requirements. I'm not sure if that means I need to upgrade a facility. I know sometimes that is required with this mod, or whether it needs to be in a certain situation, but again, that's part of the testing of this mission, is to see what can I actually do with the parts that I've got. And now the crew make their final preparations before heading down to the icy surface of Minmus. In my quest for getting lots of beautiful landing shots, I forgot to hit record when I did any of the science. You can see there I was just in front of a little rock. I did a little hop over because I've got a scanning arm on the top of this vehicle, so I wanted to collect some of the science there. But yes, I completely forgot to hit record. You may also notice there that the sun is already looking a bit different. In between landing and taking off, I switched over visual mods, so now I've got a different sun flare, and I'm also now using Blackrack's volumetric clouds, which hopefully we'll get to see a bit of at some point. But let me talk about the lander a little bit. You can see there's actually 3 engines, 2 forward-facing engines, well, rather backwards-facing engines, and then 1 for vertical landing and ascent. I thought it would be easier to have like some shuttle engines for when it's in orbit, and then a vertical landing engine. They are one of the few part mods that I have. It's a mod that adds a few shuttle engines, those of the space shuttle. It comes in a variety of different sizes, and at the moment they're the only small engines that I have. I haven't actually unlocked the stock small engines, so these are the only ones that I had available to me. You can see there also the surface looking marvellous. That is thanks to the Parallax mod, which adds all sorts of terrain features and better looking textures for the actual surfaces. But yeah, the lander is pretty much equipped with everything it needs. It hasn't got all the science, there's like no materials bay, and I think I forgot to put on mystery goo experiments. But for the most part, it has absolutely everything you would need of a scientific lander. I even went way over the top with the life support. I think it has like a year or 2 of life support on the actual vessel, which is way more than you'd actually need. But here we are trying to rendezvous back with the flower ship, and of course taking a moment to appreciate the beautiful new sun flare. I think it's called Cabram Sunflare mods, and there's a bunch to choose from. I went for the blue one because I think it looks the most spacey. Kind of reminds me of the film Interstellar. You might also notice that some of the parts look a bit different. I am using the restock mod, which remodels a lot of the stock parts to make them look a bit more realistic. I did contemplate getting, is it Lazy Painter or something like that, but I think ultimately I prefer the more spacey look of vessels rather than the colourful look. That being said, I know the YouTuber Veos does a lot of very cool things with the painter mods, making some very cool spacey looking vehicles, but that's more like futuristic when space infrastructure is all set up, which, I'm not there yet. We're still in the exploration phase of this program. But here we are, we've arrived back at the flower ship. We're just cancelling out our relative velocity so we can begin the docking procedure. So I have the docking alignment indicator mod, but for some reason the actual marker isn't showing up on the nav ball, which is very annoying. It's basically a marker on your nav ball to show you which way to point so that you're lined up with the docking port that you're trying to dock with. But for some reason it's not working, so I'm relying solely on the docking camera, which is also quite useful, but it doesn't quite show you the alignment that you need to be in. It just shows you whether you're pointing towards the docking port or not, and whether you're travelling towards it. That being said, once you are pretty much over the port, it becomes quite handy. It shows you that you are, properly lined up and everything. And there we are moving towards the target at a roaring 0.1 meters per second, which translates to roughly 0.2 miles per hour, so absolutely screaming towards the vessel. Though in reality, docking speeds are a lot slower than this, usually around 0.03 meters per second, because of course in real life you have to be very careful about moving spacecrafts together. You don't want them smashing into each other and potentially breaking expensive equipment. Unlike in Kerbal Space Program, where I can just let the magnetic force of the docking ports yank them together. And there we are, a round trip to the surface of Minmus and back. The crew will now analyse the samples that they've collected and continue to live up there for a few more months. And now on to the star of the show. I wanted to showcase Blackrack's volumetric cloud, so I'm going to shut up now and let the visuals do the talking. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Kerbal Space Program Cinematic Playthrough. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I certainly enjoyed looking at those beautiful clouds and that beautiful sunset. If you enjoyed it, consider sticking around, and I might see you in the next video.